everyone. Welcome to tonight's show. My name is Alexa. I'm your head of online community here at Housecall Pro and your host for the Home Service Evening Update. I'm joined by my co-host, Roland. He's the co-founder of Housecall Pro, and Mel, who's our senior vice president of people. You can think of us as your in-house business, marketing, and HR strategy experts. Each evening at 5 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday, we share the state of the world according to the home service industry, and we have one main topic or guest. So tonight, we're very excited to welcome Bill Yeadon on. He's the customer training director at JonDon. JonDon is a distributor of equipment, chemical, and training for cleaning, restoration, janitorial, and concrete companies. So more on that in a little bit. He's here to talk about what is your COVID protocol. This is not just for the home cleaning or the carpet cleaning or restoration industries. This is for everyone for entering a customer's home or even a commercial building. So that is what you have to look forward to after our quick news update from Mel. One last thing, if you are not yet in the Facebook group, I will post it there. There's over 2,900 pros. We are almost at 3,000. I mean, we're closing in on week 9, so that's a pretty incredible number. So if you are not yet in it, make sure you join the group. And if you want to watch past episodes of this broadcast, just head on over to YouTube, Housecall Pro, and the first playlist that comes up is all of our past evening updates. All right, over to you, Mel, for our state of the world, and we will be back shortly. I'm going to put it on speaker view.
Great. Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Melina Fairley, Senior Vice President of People at Housecall Pro. Please do feel free to call me Mel. And we have been coming to you live from our homes Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, to give you a quick daily recap of what's going on in the news related to coronavirus so that you don't have to spend your time glued to the TV and radio. We're going to give you the top headlines. But then more importantly, we bring you information and really great guests and a sense of community and hopefully some inspiration. So by way of introduction, I am not a reporter, although today my husband told me that maybe I should stop saying that after 9 weeks. I am reporting every night, and he tried to give me a piece of information and then I fact checked it. So I'm feeling a little bit closer to being a reporter. I do have a degree in political science. Anyway, I'm a human resources professional. I've been doing this sort of work for over 20 years, but I'm also a homeowner. I'm a customer of the home services. I'm a mom of 4 and a proud Marine Corps wife. So with that said, here's your evening update for Tuesday, May 12th, 2020. Every night we look at the Johns Hopkins dashboard, and we're at over 4.2 million global cases. There we go. Always see Roland's chat popping up there. And over 291,000 deaths globally, and almost 1.5 million recovered. So that's the green number that we like to see keep climbing up. Here in the US, we are at over 1.36 million cases. There we go. And last I checked, we were over 82,000 deaths. Yep. And getting closer to 250,000 recovered, a little over 230,000 recovered as of this afternoon. So looking at COVID-19 globally as a whole, Europe has exhibited decreasing daily incidence since early April. So Europe has been declining. Africa, Asia, South America are all steadily increasing. North America remains relatively stable, relatively steady as far as our daily new cases, driven largely by us here in the US. So globally, we are seeing plans to relax social distancing, not just here in the US, but governments around the world continue to announce plans to relax social distancing. The phased approach, so gradual incremental easing of restrictions over time, definitely appears to be the favored protocol. So on Sunday, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who you may remember did have and recover from COVID-19, announced that the UK plan is going to have 3 steps. So step 1 starts tomorrow, largely most of the same restrictions in place, continuing to encourage remote work where possible, but they're going to start easing a few measures. The next step will aim to begin on June 1st and will permit some non-essential retail businesses and some schools to reopen. I know that would be nice. And step 3 is going to expand the operation of non-essential businesses. So that includes hairdressers and beauty salons and pubs, which are super essential to British lifestyle. But step 3 will not commence any earlier than July 4th. And all of these will, definitely be monitored to see if any changes to their plan are needed. So that's an interesting national plan that we've just heard announced. Here in the US, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo announced the state's plan to begin relaxing social distancing. As you know, here we're not going as a country, we've been going more locally as far as regulations and process. So the New York plan will operate on a regional level, enabling some parts of the state to resume activities before other parts of the states. So it's going to be based on a certain set of designated criteria. Sports, I've been doing a little bit of sports news lately. Several major sports leagues are beginning to develop plans to resume competition. So NASCAR will resume its 2020 season on May 17th at Darlington Raceway in South Carolina. And NASCAR is going to compete without fans present, and teams will implement social distancing measures. They also chose that raceway because it has close proximity to their headquarters, so that folks won't have to travel as far. Major League Baseball, something that I know we'll all be missing here in San Diego. They've reportedly reached an agreement to begin the delayed 2020 season this July.
Yeah, so the owners agreed, the players still have to agree. But obviously there's some discussion there whether the players will accept or not. My guess is they will, especially if there's no fans present, because they don't make any money unless they play. So I feel like that'll be an interesting conversation just to watch. Same with NASCAR, because they've been doing the iRacing. You know, it's been kind of interesting to watch, and it's very lifelike. But obviously without a fan base, you know, how are people going to take maybe when they're sitting at home, they're watching TV, some sports. So that'll be pleasant to spend some time watching sports again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the experience for players is different without without fans present. You know, does that change performance? That home team advantage not be such an impact anymore. So I'm interested to see how it turns out. Cruise ships. We talked a lot about cruise ships in the first weeks of the pandemic, and now Carnival Cruise Line recently announced that it intends to resume services on select cruise routes starting August 1st. So despite the elevated risk of transmission, potential passengers were reportedly super eager to make reservations. And according to one report, representatives from a travel agency indicated that bookings since the announcement were 3 times the volume reported during the same period in 2019. So diehard cruise fans are interested in getting back to cruising. Who knew?
Yeah.
Alexa, back to you.
Well, I grew up in a family of diehard cruisers, and I think, oh my God. Oh, that's your Alexa.
That's my Alexa. Sorry about that. And I was worried about the kids making noise, it turns out.
But I grew up in a family of avid cruisers, and oh, we got to unplug her. She is going off right now. It's so cheap to book them right now. Like, it's literally half the rate. And so my dad is like finger on the button, ready to book like 10 cruises for this year. So I understand that. But thank you, Mel, for our news update. We will see Mel back here tomorrow, and we are going to get into our main portion for the night. So see you tomorrow, Mel.
Thanks. See you then.
Awesome. So tonight's special guest is Bill Yeadon from JonDon. So I'm just going to intro Bill really quick and we'll get right into it. So Bill, he has been in the cleaning and restoration industry since 1975, and he's currently the customer training director at JonDon. And he's sitting down with us tonight to share everything you need to know about cleaning protocol to keep yourself out of trouble. Super important. Where to find PPE equipment, pre-appointment checklists, and much more. So these are important things to know no matter what industry you're in. So even if you are not in the cleaning industry, this still has to do with you. So stick around. Bill, can you give us a brief overview of what you do and what JonDon does?
Basically, I think Roland said it pretty well. JonDon has been around since 1978. We have 14 locations. We're a national distributor of equipment, chemicals, and all the products that go with cleaning, restoration, concrete, janitorial. We do a little bit of everything. We've got all across the country. And myself, I've actually been with them since about 1994. I'm in charge of customer training. So that means that I do some of the training in various subjects, and I also bring in all of our various trainings. JonDon has been built, the way we have differentiated ourselves is basically because of the training that we've done all these years.
I feel like just in the industry within itself, JonDon always has a great reputation. And the reason why we even got together way back in the day was, talking to John, the first thing I said was, our success is our customer success. And he's like, you know what, that's our same motto. Yeah. We're going to be able to work together. And I was there and, my ball cap and my flip flops. And he's like, all right, I'll give this kid a shot. So it's been a fun ride, but obviously super well respected in the industry. I feel like the first thing I'd love to tackle is the question of, you've got a really interesting point of view and some general ways of thinking about, fear versus respect of the virus as it relates to, coming in the customer's home and how pros should be thinking about it. Talk to us a little bit more. What do you mean by fear versus kind of respect?
Well, I actually got that term from one of my friends, Doyle Bloss, but the idea is that fear is all about the unknown. Fear is about things that we can't control. And after you watch that update that we just saw with the COVID across the world, we have a right to be fearful, right? But the idea is that we know that we, especially in essential industries, have got to continue going through the processes of what we do. So much, especially with our particular industry, which is the cleaning industry, is that we're really the people that have to come in there and take care of the situation. I think what it is that I've talked to some of my friends, and when they go into buildings that they've been cleaning for a while, when they've been there for a while, they walk in and they talk to them about it, and they said, well, Bob, just go ahead. You know what to do. Just do what you need to do. Now that's respect. But I think also a lot of that respect is always going to start from the phone call. The person answering the phone is the most critical aspect. They got to have empathy. They've got to have knowledge and get that trust factor built into the customer before the technicians ever get there. And then the technicians standing on that doorstep, whether it's a owner-operator company or a company that has 200 technicians, the idea that how you look, how you present yourself is going to be the whole thing, whether or not that customer feels good about you. And I think that's where the respect aspect comes in.
Yeah, I think also when you start thinking about fear is often the fear of something that's uncertain and unknown. You don't even know what the rules of engagement are. Whereas, a healthy respect is once you start to understand things and you know what you can and can't do, what you should and what you shouldn't do, both as an individual and as a pro yourself, but then also on the homeowner side, which is kind of leading into the next question we have here for you.
Absolutely. So we asked this question in a poll at the beginning of this Zoom webinar. So if you're on Facebook, unfortunately, you can't see the poll, but it's, have you been in a house or building for a job with a positive COVID case? So 57 out of 78 of you responded. So I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results. So the results are 14% say they for sure have, 56% say they haven't, and 30% say they don't know. So that is some interesting statistics. I think, like, going back to the whole fear versus respect thing, just as we're asked to wear a face mask, you just have to assume like it was in there at one point. So Bill, let me stop sharing this. Exit. Let's talk about the protocol for going into a building that has a known case of COVID, or if you are assuming that there is a known case of COVID in that building. What do the pros watching, regardless of industry, need to know here?
Well, of course, first off, they need to know if they're prepared for this. And I would say the majority of the people that are in the cleaning industry are not prepared for this. Number one is they don't have the right insurance. And I can tell you that 95% of the people that are in our industry do not have the right insurance because there were very few policies that covered viruses before this occurred. And you're going to find that over the next several years, the lawyers are the most busy people in the world because they're going to be fighting all these cases, right? So I think that's part of it. If you don't have the training, in other words, what I say by the training, the type of training you need to go into a building that we talked about, that there was a person in there, you need to have like a forensic training, which is really, going and taking care of bodies and those types of things. But forensic training is really a meticulous training that basically goes after vertical, horizontal surfaces for all sorts of biocontaminants. And once again, that is a specialized field, which means the majority of our people are not ready to do that. If they have to start asking about what type of PPE, personal protective equipment, they need, they're not ready for this. When you look at all the training that's out there, basically all of it starts with safety and what are you going to have for PPE. And the majority of people don't have that at this point.
Mm-hmm. Another thing you told me on Friday was like, you need to go back to basics here. So yes, they need to know a lot more than cleaning, but when you say you need to go back to basics, what does that mean?
Well, really what it means is that we have to go back. We talk about deep cleaning, and we've done a lot of these seminars so far over the last 2 months. Deep cleaning is really about hot water extraction and doing the steps that have been designed for us a long time ago by Dr. Michael Berry, who was with the EPA and wrote a book called Cleaning for Health. And that's what kind of is our Bible. And what you need to know is that everybody wants to talk about disinfectants and this and that, but really, when you look at the virus, and without getting overly technical, the virus is really just what they call lipid or fat. And that really is an enveloped virus, which means that any type of cleaning solution that has a surfactant, in other words, soap or detergent, is going to destroy or inactivate the virus. So once you know that, and as you saw right there, that stats that only 14% of the homes or buildings they've been in, which means that the other ones that said they don't know, so either there isn't or they don't know, 86%, which means everyday cleaning is still going to be the best thing you can do. It's simple, but people are always trying to complicate this. And I think this is part of that confidence level that's going to give them the trust and make the customer feel better.
Yeah, that trust and confidence too is a big aspect. You know, if you come in and are demonstrating your knowledge, talking like the way that you just talked to us,
Yes.
The customers are going to feel so much more at ease. If you're kind of like, well, I don't know, maybe woulda, coulda, shoulda, but you know, I hear on the news, you know, it's like, whoa. You don't even know what you're doing. But even using some of the words that you're using is very helpful, and our pros should definitely start to emulate that.
Absolutely. Especially if you're non-cleaning too, like think about how much more impressive that's going to be if you come in with all this correct cleaning terminology.
Yes.
So like lean on your cleaning network. Something that you hear us talk about basically every day in this broadcast is look across the street, see what other people are doing. This is a great time to ask your friends who own cleaning businesses. So that's carpet cleaning, restoration, home cleaning, and learn from them.
Yeah, we're all the same. Basically, we're all service providers. So a lot of this stuff, as you well know, is basically the same processes. The customer is the same, right? We're just doing different fields, and that's really what it is. So we all have that great commonality of trying to get that trust for the customer. They feel confident.
Yeah, so I feel like one of the things that we hear our pros talk a lot about are like, you know, what should I say? What should I not say? What can I say? What am I liable for if I say, or what should I stay away from? What are the blacklist, you know, trigger words that you should definitely not mention? What are some of the things you're hearing? And I feel like one thing that we'll share with our pros here is you guys have been kind enough to share some of that with us, and we'll be giving that to everyone that's watching here today. But walk us through some of these things.
Well, I'd say the biggest one we're talking about is everybody wants to know, are you going to disinfect my home? In other words, is this all going to be dead when you leave here? Am I totally safe? No. The whole idea is that disinfectants are actually ruled by the EPA, and what they look at those are a pesticide. Number one is that in most of the states out there, you're supposed to have a pesticide license, which I can guarantee 80% of the cleaners either don't have it or don't know they should have one. So saying that, now we can never apply a disinfectant to a carpet and call it a disinfectant. Once again, EPA guideline, right? We can say that we have applied a sanitizer to any soft surface and we have applied a disinfectant. We are not killing the virus. We are inactivating because it's not alive to begin with. And so all these terms, we got to just start being very careful about them. We do not have any tests so far against the current COVID. You can look on a bottle of Lysol and it'll say coronavirus, but that's because it's a family, all right? It's a family, not the COVID-19, the SARS-2 COVID-19. That's a different virus that nobody has tested as of yet, and we won't know that for a long time. So using any kind of that terminology, we are deep cleaning. We'll never get in trouble by using that term.
And labels, that was something that as we were talking about it,
yes.
Labels is something you kept mentioning. What about labels? Why should
labels, once again, that's the EPA, and the label is the law. There's a very strange law. If you ever have trouble sleeping at night, look it up. It's called FIFRA, Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, Rodenticide Act. Whoa, it's a killer, right? And that's all of our guidelines, and basically tells us what it is. That means that when people call me and they say, so Bill, which one can I use in this, and what one can I use in that? I go, read the label. Well, you know, half the time that's why they call me. They don't want to read the label. The idea is that the label is the law. The label will tell you where you can use it, what it's going to do, what kind of tools you're going to use. And if you make any statements that are not on that label, you are in violation of the law and can get yourself in great trouble. And I can guarantee you, once again, those lawyers are just going to be sitting here drooling, knowing there's so much of this that's going on incorrectly.
Yeah, and I feel like ignorance is not bliss in this case, because you will get quoted or misquoted, and you just want to make sure you're doing the right thing. And if customers really press you for something, just say, you know what, Billy, would you mind just reading the label yourself? I think it explains it perfectly well there. And that's obviously the only thing that I can say, because the label is the law. And then in most cases, homeowners will be like, all right, fine, you know. But the sanitization versus the disinfecting, I feel like we should probably repeat here. So tell me the difference between the two, and what can you and can you not explicitly say.
So either way, what you're going to say is that I have applied a disinfectant. And the best way to do it is to name it. Name the name of the product as per label directions. And then the label makes the claims. If it is on a soft surface like carpet or upholstery fabrics, then it's still, I've applied it, but now it becomes a sanitizer because there's no such thing as a label. And really what it means is just that the disinfectant kills to a higher degree, although really what you're talking about is from 99.999 to adding a couple more nines on the end. So it seems almost ludicrous in what you're talking about, but when you're talking about the law, you know, talking about ludicrous isn't going to help you when you're standing in front of the judge. Judge, I really didn't think that last 9 really meant anything. All right. Well, sorry, son. You'll have a lot of time to think about that in the big house. There.
Yeah, no. Okay, so one thing that we're going to do now that that's really clear, and if you guys have questions about this, feel free. Don't be afraid not to ask questions about how to word this or how to script this, because Bill has been teaching this for a long time. He's got it down packed. So put that in the Q&A here, because we will answer those. Now, let's talk a little bit about what you sent over to us, because I feel like this is something that all of our pros can use. So I'm going to share my screen here. Maybe me and you will walk through it kind of step by step, like 1, 2, 3, and we'll kind of just outline what's going on here. So let me pull this up here. Let me hit share screen. Desktop 1. All righty. So we've created this pre-visit guidelines and phone screening script with all the information that you guys gave us. We just put some pictures and made it look a little more fancy, but you guys gave us all this content here, which has been super awesome. So let's walk through when the customer calls and you're booking that appointment.
Yes.
What's the first thing here, and why? Why should we say this next point right here?
Now, basically, we want to know, you know, because as our polls showed, there's a lot of people that don't know that. We know we have a lot of people that are asymptomatic. And the fact is that if there's anybody that has any type of symptoms, you know, and if they have a fever or if they have the cough or anything, probably now is not the good time to do it. And we're also on the other side kind of checking our people, our technicians each day for the exact same things. We know that this spreads so quickly. This is critical. We know that there are some of them out there. Somebody said 14% of the people have gone. So there are some out there. We want to make sure we're not going into those homes.
Yep. So step 1, protect yourself just in case, even if people are asymptomatic. Maybe you'll catch some if they are like, oh, someone has the sniffle, someone's a little ill, whatever. Perfectly fine. You know, kind of go from there. So this next piece here, I feel like this is definitely something you can say in your script. You know, we want you to have a great, safe, hey, Bill, just want to let you know, we want to make sure you have a great, safe experience. To do this, can you help us with a couple of things during our visit? So step 1, what's the first step that we should be asking the customer to do?
Yeah, and a lot of customers maybe have never had a home service for, say, carpet cleaning. And what the problem is that they think we're going to come in and we're like moving company. We're going to move their beds and all these other things, and that's not part of it. We ask them to move any breakables, and even though we're going to be very careful, if we knock over the china cabinet with the 300-year-old Hummel, of course, that's irreplaceable, right? And we found out over the years that something that was a vase when we broke it became a vase all of a sudden, you know, so things seem to change quickly. So anything that we can have taken out of the way, we don't mind moving end tables, coffee tables, if you take the lamps off them. We're certainly not going to move anything that's going to be electronics or pianos or anything else. I can tell you through many horror stories in the years when I was doing that, how many pianos supposedly came out of tune just because I slid it over 6 inches. So there's just a lot of things. This will speed it up. Yep. You know, so just makes a world of difference in there.
And this is also for non-cleaning. So just because we're saying that with that in mind for the script, obviously, if you are moving around in the home, you want things to be moved and you want the least amount of contact points necessary to get you from where you need to be in your truck into the home and then back. So removing any of those obstacles is good, because the more things you touch, you may expose the homeowner or the homeowner may expose you. So number two, what about FIDO? What about FIDO?
we know because we're in the business of pets and cleaning. We know it's a $75 billion a year industry now. Unbelievable. And people value their pets more than they do in many cases their husbands, right? So I think I was mentioning the other day, it's a bad thing when you're standing at the door as the customer looks out and you're all going, really? That bird was $5,000? I can't believe that, right? And so there's always the dog sneaking out, the cat sneaking out, or the worst thing is to look underneath something and that cat comes springing out at you. So we're going to tell them to please just put them away. You know, we know they love their pets and everything. And we know there's a lot of people that are going to come to the door with a dog, right? In that case, we carry dog biscuits with us because we know that if that dog likes us, we're a good person. If that dog doesn't like us, we're a bad person. We're not above bribing the dog.
I like that. Or cat. Or cat,
to they usually don't come to the door. No.
All right, so step 3. What are we going to do about shaking hands? Because I feel like this is almost so ingrained in us that it's hard to unforget. But walk us through what's number 3.
It is. I mean, the idea is that one of the things we've been working with that for years before pre-COVID, and the idea was we tried to minimize that and make it easier to do it right. So what we would always say is offer a business card, right? Because we figured that takes away the discomfort of shaking hands with a woman. They don't always want to shake your hand. Nowadays, we can't even hand them a business card. So I think part of it is that we would tell them that ahead of time on the phone, that our technicians will, you know, we would love to shake your hand, but we're not going to be able to do it now because we're going to be standing 6 feet away from you. We're already going to have our gloves on and everything else, but we won't have our shoe covers on yet, but we'll have the mask on going in, and this will be on a normal situation, right? Because I think today people are kind of used to it. 2 months ago, it may have been scary. I don't believe it is today, so I think it's to be expected, and it's going to make the customer feel better.
Yep. And anytime you might feel a little uncomfort when you're talking about these things, remember, this is to protect you and the customer. And ultimately, this is going to make them feel more comfortable with you. Because imagine if you're asking this to every single client you're working with, that's going to end up protecting them better than someone that isn't asking these questions. So remember, this is going to put you above and beyond. And I've already seen it start to trickle in. A lot of our pros reviews are saying, the homeowner's like, wow, you know, Bill Yeadon was very accommodating to our request, stayed away from the family, you know, contactless payment, all those things. So it's starting to resonate with people and they appreciate it. So it's a really good thing, even if it is a little uncomfortable. So I feel like this last thing here, this is kind of a critical thing, you know, thanking them. I feel like people don't do that enough, especially during these times. But it's placing the trust in our company, and this, you know, comes full circle because ultimately a happy customer is going to become your cheerleader, and your best friend Steve loves saying that. So if there's anything I remember from that class, it's all about, you know, creating cheerleaders. But this helps close that circle.
Yeah, he still makes his wife dress up in her cheerleader outfit every day. Sorry, Steve.
And so guys, this awesome downloadable that we made with the help of JonDon, I posted the link both in Facebook and in chat for where to download it. You can also text the word files to 31996. So I'll post that again, but it's in a big blog post that we made on how to screen your customers. It's something, if you've been with us since like week 1, week 2, we just keep adding to that main article. So it'll probably look familiar to you, but it's worth the reread there. So I posted it. Make sure you go, it's at the very top. It says download, and you can download it right there.
Yep. So on the right-hand side, we don't have to go through that, but those are just some of the basic things that you should be saying on the phone script to make sure you can screen the customers, make them feel safe, make them feel trusted. You can even rewrite it, post it, next to like sticky notes next to your monitor or whatever it is where you're answering your phone. But those are all just the basic questions that you all should be asking your customers.
Mm-hmm. And so let's now talk about PPE gear. You, of all people in your company, know what's easy to find, what's hard to find, what's the most popular coming off the shelf thing right now. And also, what should every single pro watching be bringing to every job, regardless of job type?
Yeah, I would say number one, let's talk about what they should be bringing. They should, number one, have their mask. They should have booties or shoe covers, all right? They should have their gloves and multiple gloves. And, one of the things they should be doing is having 2 pairs of gloves on. I realize that gloves are in the shortage, but one of the nice things about that, especially if you're working in a home that does have a COVID case in there, when you tear that glove, you should have a different colored glove underneath. And what that does is you can easily see the glove is torn. If I got a blue one underneath and I got a yellow one on top, I can see that I've torn that glove. That tells me, to maybe take that one off. And there is a special way to take gloves off. They call donning and doffing, which we don't have time to get into, but that's going to be critical to what we're doing. And the mask and the booties. If it is a COVID, then we're also going to want some sort of a Tyvek suit to have on also. And once again, these are going to be disposable units, so that's going to be the key things. And the things that we didn't talk about is all the things that should have been done before the job. Disinfecting of all their equipment before it brings it in. If you looked at carpet cleaners, so often they bring in their carpet cleaning wand, which is what they use to clean with. And so often it's got all kinds of dog hair, cat hair on it. Today, that's never acceptable, but today, all that trust we talked about, it just went out the door with that $5,000 parrot. So that's the big issue that we're dealing with there. So.
I like the glove thing. That is something I haven't heard yet, wearing the 2 different colored gloves. And so where is the best place to find all these things? Obviously, in the beginning of this, like, masks were impossible to come by. And if you could let us know, like, where's the best place to look and what should I be looking for first?
Well, in case you don't see all those words right behind me here, JonDon would probably be your best place to do that, right? If I didn't say that, tomorrow morning I'd be looking for a job, maybe at Housecall Pro. So, but here's the things that we can get right now. We're doing a really good job with disinfectants. Now, of course, the first couple of weeks, they were, they went out of there like it was free, right? We're doing a good job of getting those all back in stock. And because we're a big company, we get to, the larger manufacturers know that we're going to buy a ton of this stuff. So they like to send it out instead of sending little bunts out. So we're doing real well with that. I think that will only continue. Some of the things that are going to be very difficult, I don't care where they are going to be the gloves, right? They're difficult. The mask, although we are getting some of the N95s, I noticed we're starting to get some of those back in, but those are the bad ones. The Tyvek suits. So all these things that, because they're coming from China most likely, and because they're going to the hospitals first, which is what they should be, those are difficult to do. We're also having trouble getting simple little things like spray tops that go into a quart-sized bottle. Those are just unbelievably difficult also, just because of the fact that they just can't gear up fast enough. So what I would do if I was somebody, I said, okay, I'm in this business and I need this stuff. Even though we may be out, place your order, all right? Because when I see all the things come through that sent out to me as a JonDon member, I find that they'll say, Okay, so we got 6,000 cases of this coming in. 4,200 of the cases are spoken for back orders. All right, and so you need to get on the list. It may be 2 weeks before you get it, but at least you know it's going to be coming, because some of this stuff is just going to be difficult. But I think the disinfectants are key. But if I could just say this one more time though, remember, we don't need disinfectants in every job. We need to understand the deep cleaning is still the most important characteristic of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one really clever hack or idea that pros should be thinking about is the reason why you want to place the order, even if it ends up that you get it somewhere else, maybe your local supply store, it's okay. You can also use that order if it comes in. It gives you a great reason to reach out to other local home service businesses. And guess what? If you were struggling to find it, guaranteed they were too. And there's nothing better to start a relationship with than having someone else owe you a favor. So if you're able to get these things in, use that as a conversation starter, reach out to other fellow local businesses. Maybe they're in a state which you don't know. Maybe they're going out of business. Maybe they need help. Maybe they've got too many customers and now they, you know, all of a sudden they want to subcontract some stuff out. So when you're thinking about these cheap, really, these are not very expensive things. They're just sometimes hard to find. It's okay to place that order, let it go through, and make sure that you get your hands on it, because there's a million uses that you use it for. One is B2B. The second one is B2C. So maybe you're at a customer's home and say, hey, you know what? I happen to have a couple extra X, a couple extra Y. Why don't I leave these behind for you just so you can further protect yourself? You better believe that customer is going to remember you. So find some other creative uses for these kinds of things, and don't just think, oh, are they only for my use? Obviously, don't go stockpiling a gazillion of these things and leave everyone else out of business. That's not what I'm telling you to do. But if you happen to have some extra and you're able to kind of guess how many jobs, how many you're going to need, use it as a leverage. Use it as a tool to get yourself in front of other people and helping them at the same time.
That's awesome. I'm going to be borrowing that one, Roland. Just want you to know.
That's the great thing about these live webinars is when we have these little ideas and we're like,
oh yes,
do this. For example, my idea that I had as you guys were talking, because I always want to be inclusive of everyone watching here, especially when we have like a industry specific guest. So the thing that I thought of for this topic is, if you are in any other industry, let's say you're appliance repair, how cool would it be if you're the one to sanitize what you were just touching and the doorknobs on the way out for the customers? That would be a great extra step. So let's say your HVAC, your hands are all over the unit. Maybe you're wearing gloves, maybe you're not, but letting your customer know, hey, I sanitized the whole thing. Here's the products that we used. Not saying that they're doing anything other than what the label says. Of course, label is law. I learned that from Billy. And I will read all labels from now on. So
there you go.
Those are a few ideas for you guys to take away. So now we want to get into the final part of our show tonight, which is the Q&A. So if you haven't asked questions yet, throw them in the Q&A box. If you're on Facebook, put them in the thread. Roland and I will pick them out, and we will ask Bill the top ones. All right. So the first one I do want to ask, this is from Michelle, or from, where is it? Where did it go? Oh, okay. It's from Michelle. So this goes back to the beginning. Bill says that most of us are not prepared and mentioned forensic training for cleaning, but yet basic cleaning with soap is the best thing today. Am I misunderstanding? Can you clarify that for us?
Yeah, that's true. What I was talking about, if you're going in specifically to take care of COVID training, COVID cases, all right, that's where you need to really have all that stuff. If you're going into the homes, as we saw, 86% of the homes we don't think had any issue. That's a basic cleaning, but we still have to dress appropriately. So you don't have to go deep into forensic for that, but you do have to understand at least a little bit about PPE. And the idea about PPE is you assess the PPE needs at each individual job, whether it's home or building. What do I think I need for that particular situation?
Thank you for clarifying. Roland, you want to choose your next one?
Yeah, this one's interesting just for the simple fact that it's not necessarily a home service trade, but it's a
Yeah.
realtor. So Carol says, being a realtor, I've been experiencing how to show homes. My practice is having customers one by one put on clean booties, gloves after I Lysoled the counters, doorknobs, etc. Listening to you, I think I need to do so much more. If a customer gets sick, they can always look for the company that has deep pockets. Can you advise?
Yeah, I think what she's doing is very good. The idea, though, is that just like all the other products out there, there is a dwell time, which we really haven't talked about. It all depends on the particular product, but on the label, again, it will say how long it has to stay wet, right? And then I would advise her to carry microfiber towels. They're very inexpensive. And the idea about a microfiber towel is that you have 8 sides when you fold it over. Every time you do a counter, you should use one side, but don't use that side again. Think about when you go into a restaurant. Sometimes you're standing at the table waiting, and the busboy comes up there, sprays down something real quick, takes the rag out of his pocket that he's had all day, and rubs it on the table. And we don't think anything of it. All right. I can guarantee you we'll all be looking at those restaurants differently now. So what she's doing in there is a great step. And I think that shows so much care and concern for her customer. And that's what's going to help her out. I think it's a wonderful idea, just a little bit more.
Absolutely. And also on the same note, Angie Moreno, she's here with us every night. She's also in the cleaning industry, and she says, please don't just spray Lysol and think you're disinfecting. The surface must be wet. So this advice, you should be telling this to your customers. We're always saying, get creative with how you're marketing yourself these days. Upload short videos of yourself saying that. Include this in your email marketing. It's just a quick tip to your customer because you care. Again, it does not matter the industry. You have knowledge from your peers around you. So I think that would be a great idea to I didn't know that. I'm definitely going to be cleaning the inside of my home a little bit differently after this. And every time a busboy pulls out a rag from his pocket, I know. Silently throw up in my mouth and leave the restaurant.
If I could make one point that I picked up from one of our science webinars that was a day long, there's been a study done that the difference between using that microfiber towel and a squeegee is 70% more effective, and we think it's because of the even pressure across there, where a towel's kind of jumbled up and just kind of like this. Using a squeegee was so much better. That was something we wouldn't have known unless some scientist somewhere ran this study for something like that. But that was pretty awesome.
This is another great question from Angie, and it's really to inform everyone watching. So can you share with the team, so Facebook listeners can hear too, how effective plain old distilled water is? I've witnessed an ATP reading on a cell phone with a disinfectant wipe and distilled water. Guess which reading was lower? So if you could break that down for us who don't know the technical terms.
So an ATP meter is basically a very cool instrument. It costs about $1,800. We sell them at JonDon. And basically what it does, it reads the amount of soil on a material, like a flat counter, right? So you take a reading beforehand and then take a reading after you clean it. And it'll just give you a number, like 800. And when you're done cleaning, you'll get like 28, right? So the idea is that it is going to just show a great amount of difference, and it's visual, which is always good. What it doesn't do is anything for viruses, because once again, viruses aren't living, so we can't really distinguish, we can't make a difference there. But if you are doing this, it'll at least give you a relative number with that ATP meter, and people that are really deep into what they're doing will use tools like that. If you don't have a tool like that, then you better be documenting everything you do. All right. In other words, you could use a GoPro camera or whatever else you would like to do. And then basically that'll also show the steps that you're doing so that you can prove what it is, because at the end of this, they're going to want some sort of documentation.
Great point.
That's a good tip.
I'm learning so much. I'm writing all this down. This is great for me. It's like as a consumer, you really should be thinking about sharing all this with your customers. I think that's my biggest takeaway for everyone here is what you're learning, you should be sharing.
Gary Finney's got an interesting one here. This is Bill. Have you heard of the UV flashing they're using in hotels to clear all viruses? They are doing it in a Colorado mountain hotel. What's this UV flashing? What are they talking about?
Boy, I'll tell you what, we start getting into some of these out there ones. You know, UV, and the whole thing is that UV is used in certain situations for like water purifying and that. I'm not sure if there's enough data yet to show that that's truly is doing anything for this particular virus. I think what it's doing is basically making people feel better. One of our doctors, Dr. Cole, I think he liked to call it, especially if somebody comes in and pre-sprays a fog or something at a building, he says that's psychological cleaning. It's not doing anything, but it makes people feel better. So because I don't have the data on that particular situation, I'm not real sure I'd feel comfortable that that was doing much.
Yeah, I've seen those contraptions too. They're using them in planes now, where it goes on the aisle and it's got like arms, you know, and it goes through, and it's like, maybe
yeah, exactly.
Feel better?
But maybe you feel better because they weren't doing it before. I don't know. I think you're right. There is some psychological benefits to that. And obviously there's, you know, a reason there's something called the placebo effect. So take it for what you will, you know, how you want to use that.
So on that topic, let's talk about fogging, because this is something I did not even know was a thing until the start of the coronavirus. And all of our cleaning pros in the first week, I remember seeing like, what about fogging? I'm like, I have no idea what that is. And so on Facebook, we have a question from Mary De Jesus. She said, hi, thank you for today. Info is gold to me as I'm in the home care biz. She's planning on adding fogging to her services. What is your view on fogging?
Yeah. Okay.
Using the lemon side.
Let me first read from the EPA. I just printed off this document real quick. It's a short document. EPA does not recommend the use of fumigation, which is fogging, or wide area spreading to control COVID-19. The Centers for Disease Control recommends that you clean contaminated surfaces with liquid products, such as those provided on List N, which is the ones that they're specifying for COVID, to prevent the spread of disease, all right? So fumigation, wide area spraying are not appropriate tools for cleaning contaminated surfaces. Now, that does not say that you can't use it. What's happening in our industry is the fact that people want to shortcut it to profit. So in other words, if I can go in and spray this house for $500 and in 15 minutes be out to the next one, boy, that's a great profit maker. And that is destroying our industry, right? That is completely breaking down the trust factors. Now, if you are using fogging as your last step, there's not a problem with that, right? As long as you're using the proper PPE, as long as you're reading the label on the disinfectant, there aren't that many true end disinfectants that are specified for fogging. All right, it's kind of the same thing as we move into electrostatic sprayers and all the other things. It's not that those are bad or anything, as long as you did all the first steps. You cannot disinfect or sanitize anything that has not been pre-cleaned. So I am not trashing fogging. I'm just saying, please use it correctly. It's like a carpet cleaner that sprayed Scotch Guard on the carpet before he cleaned it, right? Wrong place. It's not the wrong product, wrong place. Hopefully I didn't I mean, we sell all that stuff at JonDon, so it's not like, you know, I'm going to stand up here and say, don't ever buy one. Just remember that you don't need it in many situations. Just please use it correctly and follow the label directions with the appropriate PPE. And on that label, it will tell you what type of PPE you need to use if you are going to fog or spray in that manner.
Yep. Super helpful. And obviously as a part of a more holistic thing that you're doing for pros out there, I definitely have seen a mad rush for people just getting foggers and just selling as the only service. And ultimately it's going to take you a very long time to repair that trust. And it's not just your own business, but it's going to be the way that people perceive home service businesses as a general statement as well, which will hurt everybody. Mike Torin asks, how does a tech disinfect an air filter when he or she pulls it out?
An air filter, I'm trying to think out of what are we pulling it out?
I'm wondering if it's an air filter as it relates to HVAC potentially. I'd imagine it's probably not the car. So yeah, let's go with that one for now.
Air dust cleaning, something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I am not sure. I would need to see the directions on that because I don't want to make a statement here that's probably wrong, right? You know, he may be using something in a negative air machine or one of the other machines. You know, normally unless it's a permanent filter, I would think that I would replace the filter. I'm sure there is a manner in which you could do it, but once again, I'd want to look at the manufacturer's instructions and follow their directions.
Yeah, I'd imagine you could probably give them a call too and say,
Yeah.
hey, I've got this customer's got this filter, or hey, I'm about to install this filter. What's the recommended cleaning procedures? And then you can just state that verbatim back to your customer and sound super smart and really have done not a lot of work. That always is a good tact and strategy there.
Let's see. Yeah, he said it's a filter in residential or commercial, but I mean, probably best to roll. I don't know how much filters cost, but like for the extra peace of mind to replace it, for your customer, maybe. Again, not giving any advice. You guys know better than me.
Yeah.
Let's see. We don't have any more on Facebook.
I like Don's question. You want to ask Don's question here?
Yeah, I do, and then we'll ask our last question to Bill after that. So this is from Don Snyder. Bill, you have been doing many great webinars. Is that the one you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you share to everyone more about your webinars? You've shared information before that is important for everyone in the field services, not just cleaning. So where can everyone here find the webinars you're doing?
Basically, we've been doing a webinar every Thursday afternoon, 2 o'clock Eastern time. And what we've been doing is just interviewing various people in our industry that talking about this, Barry Costin, Doyle Bloss, and a lot of the people that have been in our industry for 40, 45 years. And we're just trying to curate the knowledge that we're getting from all these different things, just like what I'm picking up here this evening, to make sure that we are sending people in the right direction. My friend Barry Costa likes to say that this is our time to shine as an industry. Cleaning is going to be so much more respected now than it has been in the past. Where to find it, if you just go to JonDon.com, all right, you should find our schedule. I know this Thursday, I'm actually going to be interviewing one of the guys from Shaw Industries, who's in charge of Shaw Product Care. Shaw's the largest carpet manufacturer in the world, and flooring, you know, so he's going to have a lot of good information. But we've been enjoying it. I learned so much, and as an instructor, all instructors learn every day, every time they're doing one of these things. If we don't, there's something that we're clogged up. We need our filters cleaned. So I appreciate the fact that just getting that little plug in there, but it's been a lot of fun, just like this is, you know.
I agree.
Yeah, we learn a lot, and we like to come up with ideas too. And you know, now is a time to try a lot of different things. People are very forgiving, and just make sure you do the right thing, and don't go around fogging people for $500 and taking advantage of the fear. It's obviously not the right thing to do. So one question we love to ask Bill is, you've given a lot of great tips to our audience here. Who is someone that you've talked to, maybe even on your webinars, that you think would be super valuable that we should invite on here, and you can provide us that introduction?
Oh yeah, I would say Barry Costa is going to be, he's one of our instructors. Barry's been the #1 IICRC instructor, I don't know how many times. That's our industry body for our cleaning. And Barry's does mostly on the restoration side, which is the side also that we look at for all these questions on when you get into the fogging and all the other things, the disinfectants. He is Mr. Passion, right? He's going to be on, he'll actually be on tomorrow morning out there on the West Coast, and I'll be listening to him. I've already interviewed him twice just because it took me twice to get through. The hard part about Barry is he's so passionate. You almost got a second one. I had to tell him, Barry, I'm going to give you a signal like, you know, steal second. If I'm tugging on my ear, it means cut it.
Yeah, if you're adjusting your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Barry would be the person, I would say. Well, I have a lot of good ones, Doyle Bloss and the others, Sean Bission. I mean, a lot of them, we seem to have this kind of like a grouping, I guess you would say, and where we kind of move around in these different things, but we have the same beliefs, and we have the same belief that this is our time to shine as an industry. And we want to make sure that there aren't people doing it wrong just for profit. And we're all for profit, but please do it correctly. If you do something right, you do it in the customer's interest, you will make money, right?
Yep.
That's just part of what business is.
Yep. If your customers are successful, then you'll be successful. So if you make your homeowner successful, or you do a good job, you'll just be successful just by default. Just by default.
Absolutely. And so one last question for you, Bill. We like to leave our audience with a challenger question. If they were to do one thing tomorrow, in your opinion, to improve their business in the scope of what we've been talking about today, what would it be?
Well, and this is kind of difficult because it's hard to get right now, but there's the book that I mentioned. It's by Dr. Michael Berry, right? It's called Cleaning for Health, right? It is the Bible, and it just goes through there. And I swear, if you read it and if you absorb it, you'll be able to answer any question that customer has about how to take care of their home or building. Now, the problem is that it was written in 1993, I believe, right? And it kind of, the resurgence came about because of what's going on right now. And so I had lost my old copy, so I ordered a new one. Got it for like 35 bucks. Next thing we knew, there was just used ones going for 700. So I'm hoping, and that doesn't mean I'm going to sell mine for $6.99 right now before anybody thinks that's what I'm doing, right? But the idea is that once they get republished, I would get that one. Now, that's not a general business book, right? But it is a book for our times that I think would help immensely.
And one more time, what's it called so I can put it in the chat?
Okay, it's Cleaning for Health. Hold on. We don't keep it far away. It is Protecting the Built Environment, Cleaning for Health. Michael A. Berry, and he was with the EPA, PhD.
Let's hold it up right in the middle so everyone can see all of it.
Right.
There we go.
Hold on, let me spotlight Bill really quick.
People are like screenshotting right now and taking their phones out. Click a click.
Take a screenshot.
And it's not boring like some of those, some technical books are. I mean, it's pretty good. But I'll tell you what, it tells us everything that we need to know and talk about, and it has helped us out immensely. All right.
That's a great recommendation. So I posted it in there. Bill, thank you so much for joining us. It was really great learning from you today. I personally just came up with like 3 things that I would like as a customer of a home cleaner, of a carpet cleaner, and of just any industry, those extra measures that you take. I think for me, the biggest takeaway is go talk to your other cleaning friends. If you're not in the cleaning industry, what a great time to make a connection. So thank you, Bill, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Bill.
It's my pleasure. Just watch out for those guys with the towels and rags in the restaurant.
Oh my gosh, let's not talk about
we can't unsee that anymore. We'll never look at it the same way ever again.
I know.
I feel physically ill. Angie just posted in the comments, text me if you need something. Advice is free for me. She is an awesome home cleaning owner. She's all over the Facebook group too. So join us here tomorrow, 5 p.m., same time. We have Captain George Dom. He is a former commander and flight leader of the Blue Angels, and he's going to be going over the 5 C's of high-level leadership. So this is going to be a really awesome one for you all to attend. If you're wondering who George Dom is, just go on YouTube, George Dom, and there's a TED Talk with him. And it'll probably be the first thing that comes up. It's like 8 minutes. So go check that out to pump yourself up for tomorrow. We will see you back here 5 p.m. Pacific time. Have a great rest of your night. Bye,
everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.